Hey guys, it's Tadeko Pantoa, and one recurring question I get time to time is, does age affect your ability to learn animation? If we were to look at the question, can you learn animation at a later time? Can you learn animation when you're older? Can you have the skills to be able to break into the industry at a later age? And if we were just going to look at those factors based on practice, consistency, and learning about the craft, then yes, we see stories of artists starting late in the industry, starting in their mid 30s or after their 40s. It is possible, and it's great motivation for those who feel like they'd like to start, but at a later time in their life. Also, animation is not a sport, it's not highly demanding physical wise. We're in front of a workstation for most of the time. What I'm trying to say is that if you'd like, you can work in animation for a very long time, well into your senior years. But we all know that life is more complicated than that, and there's a lot of factors that can affect our skills and our ability to learn animation. You see, as we grow older, we form a paradigm for ourselves, a roadmap, or an understanding of how the world works or how we go about life. Certain biases are formed. We form our own coping mechanisms to get by in life. The older we get, the more we begin to prioritize what's important for us and leave out the things that don't reflect our ideals. Factors that are outside of the industry or animation or art, such as family, friends, people that we love, or other life goals. Some of the older American animators do not like Animate because they were taught to believe good animation is smooth Disney-style animation, all in 24 frames per second. Whereas the new generation are more likely to embrace or to innovate new rules, new philosophies, etc. I'm not old, but I'm also not young, or I'm not an entry-level artist anymore. But I personally feel the burn and the drag of having to constantly adapt, rewire what I've been taught at school to be able to still continue work in this industry and to keep up with the times. Over time, I've learned a lot about myself and things that matter outside of the animation industry or my craft. But if I were to bring it back to the animation talk, I went to school at a time when a lot of the older teachers were telling us not to do what anime was doing, to avoid animating in threes, to avoid drawing in the anime style, to keep it out of our portfolios because it was considered as cheap, amateurish, or bad. Now, anime and anime influence is pretty dominant in the industry now. I am learning a bit of the anime pipeline by doing anime freelance, learning new things that go against a paradigm that I grew with, something that I was forced to learn to grow accustomed to. When you grow older, you ask yourself, should I just keep up changing my way of thinking to keep up with the times, or should I say, this is enough, I'm going to keep doing what I was taught, what feels right, what feels good, and life is more than just this animation world. It's also going to make us more selective on what kind of work we'd want to do, compared to younger artists who are constantly trying to find themselves and will do much more to learn something. An older folk might not want to do a job where the entry-level rates aren't as high because they might have already faced experiences in their life that makes them want to avoid things like that. When I was younger, I was totally fine by pulling off crunch time, low pay, doing so much work, doing more than what I was asked because I could. The animation art form was my only world at the time. And after that experience, I know that this is not something that I would like to do again and again. I want to slow that down. And that experience is going to switch up my overall paradigm as I grow older. I can only prioritize on certain jobs that pay a decent amount. I know I have other priorities in my life, my health, what if I want to settle down, or I have to find ways where the sacrifice and the risk isn't so big anymore. So your meaning of life or what's important in your life will change over time, that's for sure. And that's also going to affect how you decide to learn things. Can you make time to be consistent with it? Can you spend as much energy with it? Is that something you'd want to do? Another is the circumstances in one's life, and this is going to be related to how competitive the field is. Younger artists might be in a situation where they can afford to, let's say, live with their parents. I briefly lived with my parents early on in my career. Many young artists can be like that, or in an apartment with many roommates. They might even have more time to pull off hours of learning and to keep experimenting. There are younger artists who are totally fine with being paid at a low rate, but being able to work for a studio, it's their way of breaking into the studio. They're in it for the passion, the craft, etc. Whereas older artists might already have an established life. They probably have to provide for a family, or they have more things in their life that take time away from learning and doing animation. Maybe they can't even afford that time or live with their parents. Now, I know that I might be painting a picture that is highly exaggerated or the contrast is too much between the young and the old, Not all young artists are so hungry that they're willing to do crunch time, do so much work, and accept low pay, and older artists having to worry about their own life circumstances. I just want to show that time and age can change a lot of factors. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to learn and to get into the industry at a later age. There are already many examples of those artists who are thriving. You also have to understand that the field is quite competitive, with many trying to break into the industry, most of them being young. If you're someone at an older age, maybe in their 20s, past their 20s and closing in on their 40s or much later, and you want to learn and do anything related to animation and art or whatever the industry is doing, then there's two big advice that I personally want to bring up. The first one is don't make your priority trying to break into the industry and to make money from it, but expressing yourself with the art form. There's going to be a high amount, so many artists who are able to do exactly what a studio asks them to. But you have to make things that are honest, close to what you want to do, and to explore why you love the medium. That way you can go at your own pace, you can start experimenting, and you can also find your own voice. And that allows you to stand out and stand out from the competition if we're thinking about trying to break in. I started learning a few new hobbies. I know I'm not going to be a professional at any of them, but I do them because I want to explore that side personally. Another advice is for those who are serious about breaking into the field and are much older. Then you have to find ways where you have nothing or not a lot to lose. This means that if you decide to dedicate time and effort into the field or the craft, the sacrifice should not be damaging to your life or lifestyle. I have friends who are much older than me and are trying to break into the anime industry, knowing that they're going to be an entry level and it's not going to pay them well at all. They know they are in it for the learning and the experience of working in anime. And they are also figuring out ways to make it possible so they aren't losing so much. They might also change a bit of their lifestyle. They're setting up their time range within the year that allows them to do that. I know I also want to invest in my own independent personal projects. I know that I'm probably not going to make money out of it. I'm actually going to lose money by doing it. But it's something that I really want to do. So I have my savings set up so I can spend a few months doing that and probably try out the sabbatical lifestyle to sort of discover myself. And that's what time can do. It can set our priorities straight or it can change our goals entirely. But we also have to be smart in how we utilize that time. And another advice that I'd like to give is being a part of the community. Whether it's animation or art, there's a lot of Discord servers, there's a lot of online places for that. The resources are out there and so are the people sharing those resources. I really do believe that if you're learning something, it's good to be surrounded in that environment with other people trying to break in or with other people that are already in a part of that industry. And last but not least, if you're serious about it, you have to stay consistent. So it's not just like you take a class or a few classes and suddenly you know how to animate. It's more like you're practicing it on either a daily basis or on a regular basis. You can go for hours every day or you can do it for like a few days during the week. I think when it comes to learning anything, consistency is key, regardless of age. And finally, self-awareness is always important because everyone is different. Everyone faces different trials in their life, regardless of age again. It's more about reflecting what you want to do, what your personal goals are, and all of that. I think with older people, they've already faced certain experiences that already formed their paradigm, and that's going to probably help them narrow down what's important in their personal goals in life. So yeah, that's my overall opinion about age, growing older, and trying to learn and break into animation at an older age. I know there's a lot of other skills I'd love to learn. I'd love to learn how to play the piano. I'd love to learn how to be a better chef or a cook. But I also know that I can only dedicate a bit of my time for those. Or if I become really serious about those other skills, I'd really have to make big changes in my overall circumstance and paradigm. Now, I know a lot of the passionate or younger artists are going to watch this video and say, what the hell is he talking about? If he talks like this, he's really not dedicated to the art form. He's not passionate about the art craft. He should keep constantly learning and making stuff. Well, you'll soon realize that life isn't that black and white. To my older friends who are trying to get into it, just get into it to express and to be creative, not for getting a job and not to break in. Start with that first and see where it takes you. If you enjoy it, that's great. And if you want to see this as a career, that's another conversation of its own. This is a topic that I'm going to revisit again because as I grew older, I became more self-aware. I realized the things I stressed out about in my 20s, the things I really wanted, don't really matter as much in my 30s. Maybe they do, but that's not really a priority for now. And again, this is a topic that I'd like to explore in another video. Okay, thanks a bunch, bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.